My name's Hamish, I'm an instructor here at RMIT Flight Training, and today we'll be looking at taxiing. The aim of today's brief is to learn and understand the principles and considerations of taxiing an aircraft and how to manoeuvre the aircraft safely out on the taxiways and aprons. The application is to gain access to the runway, taxiways and terminals when we're flying our aircraft. Aerodrome, airport and the airfield is defined as an area within which aircraft operate. So out to my right is a picture of Point Cook and our airport environment. The taxiway is a specific path around the aerodrome which allows aircraft to either taxi to or from the runway or to or from the apron to the runways. You'll notice that there's a continuous solid yellow line in the middle of the taxiway, and that's where we'll keep our aircraft. It's important to keep our aircraft on that yellow centre line, as when we're taxiing larger aircraft with multiple engines, those engines can hang off the taxiways if we're not located on the centre of it, which could cause ingestion of foreign object debris into the engines. So that's why it's really important we keep ourselves centred on the taxi line at all times. Holding point. At the end of the taxiway and before you enter the runway, you'll come across a holding point. There's a combination of holding points located around all of the aerodromes which you'll fly into. It's important you recognise and understand what these holding points mean. On one side of the holding point, you'll notice that there are two solid yellow lines, and on the other side that there are a series of two dashed yellow lines. If you're on the side facing the solid yellow line, that means you must stop. If you're on the side where there's the two dashed yellow lines, you are allowed to taxi through that holding point. Commonly, these holding points are located before you enter a runway or before you exit a runway. The apron. We've already discussed the apron area in our tarmac safety brief, and we'll redefine it again. The apron is an area on the airfield which accommodates all of our aircraft, parking, taxiing, loading and unloading of passengers and cargo. At Point Cook, we have a run-up bay located on the western grass. At other aerodromes, they'll also have run-up bays, but they may not be marked like ours. So it's important you understand how to recognise a run-up bay. You can find out the location of run-up bays on aerodrome charts which are located in your IRSA. Here at Point Cook, our run-up bay is designated by a series of yellow cones. To enter the run-up bay, it's an idea that you cross between the asphalt and the grass at a 45-degree angle. This allows plenty of clearance between the propeller and the tail so you don't strike them on the ground. Entering the run-up bay, you must enter between the two yellow cones located on the western side of the grass. Once you enter the run-up bay, it's important you position the aircraft so you're not blocking the entrance and the exit. So the runway. A runway is defined as a rectangular piece of concrete and prepared for the aircraft taking off and landing. Gable markers. Gable markers will define the edge of a grass strip and even sealed surfaces. Gable markers are used to indicate the boundary of an active runway. It's important to notice that these gable markers will be before the runway, which will also define the runway strip. We also have aerodrome markings. These can look like white cones with red stripes, yellow cones or white cones. The coloured cones are used to define areas of specific meanings. The white and red cone mean that area can't be used by an aircraft. The yellow cone and white cones are used to define parking areas, run-up bays. We also have a windsock. We have a series of windsocks located around Point Cook. They're used to determine the wind direction. The windsock is a large fabric sleeve made of plastic, and it's used to indicate the wind strength and direction. Aircraft always need to take off into wind, so it's important you understand how to read the windsock, which we'll cover on the next slide. Here we have a map of Point Cook and our aerodrome, showing the following taxiways. We have a series of taxiways that link all of our runways and aprons. Located at the threshold of runway 22 is taxiway Alpha. Moving up to the north, Alpha then extends and enters into runway 17. Travelling up to the north of the picture, we'll come to the threshold of runway 17, where we'll have taxiway Bravo. And taxiway Bravo follows all the way down past the fuel truck, past our RMIT apron, and then it transforms into taxiway Charlie. You'll notice that there's taxiway Delta. We can use taxiway Delta to enter onto runway 04 or 22, and even to vacate runway 22 and 04. Continuing further down to the south, we have taxiway Echo, which takes you to runway 04. We also have taxiway Foxtrot, which will take you to the threshold of runway 35. And then we have taxiway Golf, which leads out onto our grass runway, runway 2608. Throughout the aerodrome, we've already discussed the purpose of a holding point, and it's important you know where these holding points are at Point Cook. Holding points will be at the start or finish of any runway, so you can notice at the end of runway 22 on taxiway Alpha there are 2 holding points. At the end of runway 17 and taxiway Bravo there's a holding point. There's a holding point on taxiway Delta which leads on to runway 22 and 04. We also have a holding point at Echo. It's important here that you hold at Echo and check that the runway is all clear specifically for the undershoot of runway 08. We also have a series of holding points coming up to runway 04. It's important that you stop at these holding points when taxiing to 04 or runway 35 and have a good look out for other aircraft. Continuing further down on taxiway Foxtrot, there are a series of holding points entering and vacating from runway 04 and runway 35 at the threshold of 35 and Foxtrot. On taxiway Golf, there are a series of holding points as well. These may not be easily defined as it's a grassed area, so you can use the gable markers to determine where you can stop. We have the runways highlighted in white. We have 3 runways. We have runway 1735, so 170 taking off to the south, and runway 35 or 350 degrees magnetic, taking off to the north. We also have runway 22 and 04, 08 and 26, which are our grass runways as well. We have 4 windsocks located around the aerodrome. The 2 white windsocks are the primary windsocks and the 2 yellow windsocks are the secondary windsocks. The first primary windsock is located at the threshold of runway 17. The second primary windsock is located at the threshold of runway 35. The secondary windsocks are highlighted in yellow. They're located at the threshold of runway 22, 04 and 08. We also have the Air Force firing range located to the end of runway 22 or the threshold of runway 04 highlighted in red. It's important that you check the NOTAMs which are noticed to airmen, and that will give you the time and date that the firing range is active.